All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be going over the set 3 tier list for legends that we're going to see in Unleashed. We're about a little over a month and maybe a week or two away from the launch here in the US. And now that tournaments are popping up, people have been building over on Piltover Archive, sharing deck lists in the Riftbound Discord. I think we have a much better way to evaluate these legends, right? We're not just doing it in a vacuum anymore. So what I'm going to kind of do is we're going to go through, we'll look at each of the legends in the third set, give a few talking points, and then kind of use some data that we already have to evaluate what do these legends look like in the current set. And granted, some of the data that we do have from tournaments, we haven't seen a ton of decks from set 1 and set 2 really interact with them, at least from the data set that I have. But we're going to take a look. We're going to do our best to evaluate it. If you guys have differences in opinions, let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys. So first one we're going to go with is Pyke. Purple and red are arguably one of the most powerful color combinations that we've seen, right? We've seen Draven and his oppression in set 2 even before the bans. But when we look at Pyke, the first thing that I think of from having played against Pyke already in my testing is the interaction with Bewitching Spirit and the ability to play Bewitching Spirit. Your opponent discards a card, you're able to bounce it back to your hand, generate a gold, so there's already value there, and then you can play it back either same turn or next turn, right? And arguably the whole goal of this strategy is to protect Bewitching Spirit and tear apart your opponent's hands. Having played against this as a Diana player, at least that's what I've been testing for set 3, is frustrating because if you don't interact on the turn it comes out, you're about to lose your hand in one way, shape, or form, or even some gas that you might have. Then when we compare Pyke to other legends of the same color, so Annie and Draven, I think he just has a different strategy. Do I think he's playable? Absolutely. I think it's just going to be a very specific strategy when we look at Draven and Annie. From my perspective, I'm going to put Pyke at an A because I do think Pyke is going to be playable in the competitive format. And that's kind of my goal, right? S is, I think, prevalent in the format. A is going to be competitive. Pyke, I think, is going to get a lot of value from not only Bewitching Spirit, but also being able to bounce Fizz back to your hand if you went that route. Fizz obviously allowing you to replay something from your trash and then recycle it into your deck is really powerful. So I think Pyke currently sits in an A tier. Let's look at LeBlanc now. And if you haven't played in set 3 against LeBlanc yet, you're in for a whole different experience, right? So we have solid color combinations. We have blue and yellow, which was already good prior to set 3. And then with the printing of set 3, I think it just made LeBlanc incredibly powerful. I mean, you saw that with Kha'Zix jumping in price overnight. And if we actually pull up a LeBlanc deck list from just Piltover. I'm just grabbing one from Vinky over on Piltover Archive. You see Kha'Zix, your death knell effects trigger an additional time. So walking this through with me here, if you look at something like Glass Mixologist, if you have them on a battlefield, they die, you're now getting 2 units for the price of 1, no more than 3 energy and a power. That is really powerful. And Glass is already a 5 might target as it is, a 5 might unit. So LeBlanc is able to have some ridiculous turns. Say ridiculous, I had them draw 12 cards in a turn against me and still have a board presence. And for me as a Diana player, it was really hard for me to interact with their combo. I could see them being in a tempo strategy, a mid-range strategy, or even in a control strategy. And without a doubt, I'm thinking LeBlanc's going to be S tier. We're already seeing that in tournaments that have been out now for the last week or so. So the Rune and Rift tournament, the Runes of Rift tournament, excuse me. And then there was a test Unleashed tournament in Croatia that we've covered in our shorts. And LeBlanc was all over that. So LeBlanc S tier, very oppressive, gonna be an issue in this coming meta for sure. So now Vex. You know, when Vex was actually shown, I was like, man, hold strategies historically haven't been great, right? In set 1 and set 2, you've always wanted to hit a battlefield and then try and get out, right? A la Aurelia, or the ability to move around with Aurelia and ride the wind, or Fight or Flight before it got banned, Overzealous Fan, stuff like that. Being able to protect your units. But now watching Vex in the competitive format, granted it's in early tournaments, a very large sample set yet, Vex is good. Vex is really good, especially if you're holding on Grove of the God Willow, which will already draw you a card, then you exhaust Vex for another card, plus your draw for the turn. That's 3 cards in a turn. And historically, even when I played Magic, drawing that many cards in a turn, arguably every turn, considering how you can build the Vex decks, is incredibly powerful. So I think that Vex is going to be strong. I think that the format will take some time to get used to Vex. Not to mention the Vex signature units. They're both very powerful. If we pull up a deck from that tournament, their chosen champion was Vex Apathetic, so it's helping with ambush units, not accelerated units. You're stunning it, right? So it's giving you a fair chance to win that combat. Vex Mocking, shield and tank. So when you stun an enemy unit at a battlefield, you can then move them to that battlefield. It sets up the whole strategy really, really well. So I'm going to say Vex is going to go into A. I'm not going to organize them yet a tier until we get through all the legends to see where I think everyone's going to end up. But we're just going to put Vex in A for the time being. So let's talk about Lilia. I've played one Lilia deck, and what I've realized real quickly is that her signature spell is insanely powerful. If you haven't seen it, it's a Lilting Lullaby. It's 2 energy, 2 power. It has to be either a blue or a green. You counter a spell, and then the opponent whose spell you countered can't cast spells the rest of the turn. That's pretty good. It's Bryn here on a stick, but you're also getting rid of a high impact card and then not allowing them to do anything for the rest of the turn. To me, that's really powerful. If you look at the Legend's ability, so it's 4, tap it, make a 3 might sprite ready to the base, and then you can discount it further if you happen to have any other units that have temporary. That's great if you build towards that strategy. I feel like 4 on its own is a lot, especially because it's not going to allow you to do a ton in a turn. But with a 3 might sprite that you can pump, you're killing 2 might units relatively easily. So I think that is powerful. So if we look at those color combinations, if we look at blue and green, you have Orange, you have Lilia, and you have Ahri. I think out of the 3 of those, Ahri is probably the most powerful legend. So I don't necessarily think I want to be playing Lilia. Now, granted, she might have fringe meta gameplay. I currently don't see it. I was able to body Lilia pretty easily on Diana. So I think for me, Lilia is probably going to go down to a B. And maybe I'm just evaluating this wrong. It's possible. She did just have a pretty solid finish in the Runes and Rift tournament. She ended up placing 8th. Yeah, so she was in the top 8. So she did have a good finish. Just for me, I could see her B. I could see her maybe having a spot in the meta, but her just not being this overwhelming standout legend. Okay, let's go ahead and we'll put her up to B for now. Let's take a look at Poppy next. So I have not played against Poppy yet. However, Poppy was another deck that had a top 8 finish at Runes and Rift. Now, granted, that Poppy list was a Aurora list. And from where I sit, if we're just looking at Poppy as a whole, her signature spell, Keeper's Verdict, I think super good. Time walking somebody's draw or putting a very high impact target on the bottom of their deck. Granted, it's owner's choice, so more than likely they're going to put a high impact unit on top, but you're at least time walking them, right? But looking at the deck otherwise, I think if I want to play Aurora, I'm not playing Poppy. I'm probably playing Misfortune. I think Poppy's fine, but I'm just not sold on it yet, right? Because if we look at the legend, when you hold gain 1 XP and then spending 3 XP, you draw 1. The card beyond Hidden Blade, they don't have a ton of ways to draw cards. Mobilize and Catalyst of Aeons, but realistically, you're playing those cards early in the game. If you're playing them late, you're just filtering through cards at this point. If you already have all 12 runes out. Now, the Vanguard Armory strategy, that's always been a powerful strategy. But for me, I just don't think I'm sold on Poppy yet. I think Poppy, for me, probably goes to a C. I don't know if her impact as an individual legend is going to be high enough to warrant a large place in the meta, unless it's through Aurora. If you're doing Aurora Poppy, probably B, just because Aurora is such a high impact card in general. Good old Jhin. So if we pull another Piltover strategy deck, the first thing I think of when I think of Jhin, I love his signature spell. I think his signature spell is ridiculously cool. Curtain Call. You can repeat it, you can draw 1, you can deal 2 to a unit at a battlefield, 3 to a base, or give a unit -4 in a turn. I think that's really cool. I like the fact that it has repeat modes. So if we're talking, if you want to cast everything, right? So we have 6 energy, 2 power. You draw 1, deal 2 to a unit at a battlefield, 3 to a unit at a base, and give -4 to a unit this turn. That has impact. You can kill something. Now, when I look at this further though, I'm like, okay, if I'm in blue and red, do I want to play Jhin or do I want to play Kai'Sa? I think the answer every single time to me is I'd rather play Kai'Sa. Because in a vacuum, the list that I'm seeing right here, while it's a great list for Jhin, I don't know how often his legend ability is going to come into play. Now, granted, if you can get the legend ability off and channel 4 runes and draw 1, that is a huge high impact turn. There's no doubt about it. In that situation, that one turn alone, Jhin has a huge impact on the game. But for me, I just don't know if it's going to be better than Kai'Sa in those colors. So for Jhin, for me, I'm going to go with Jhin in C. Now, granted, I could entirely be wrong on this. Maybe I'm just evaluating him incorrectly. I've not personally played against a Jhin, but I feel like as a Diana player or as a historically purple-blue player, I would be fine playing in that matchup. I wouldn't have an issue with it. Good old Kha'Zix. I have not played against a Kha'Zix yet, but if we look at the Kha'Zix strategy as a whole, we see mid-range, we see aggro, we see isolate and kill. Let's just pull up a quick strategy. So Void Reaver, when you win a combat, gain 1 XP, you can buff a unit or spend 2 and move an exhausted friendly unit from a battlefield to its base. In a vacuum, Kha'Zix Legend, totally fine. I like it. If you look at the Chosen Champion, Mutating Core, you can ambush the attacker defend. If the enemy unit is alone, give him +2 this turn. That's pretty good. I'm curious if that actually stacks multiple times. So if you ambush in, you're able to win a combat. He gets +2 because he's technically at that point, you're considered the defending player, your other units, and then you end up defending again. I'm curious if you go up to 8. That's pretty powerful when you look at it with Void Reaver, because then you can always buff him the next turn. He's a base 5, and then he potentially attacks to 7 if you go back and you have a single unit there. It's like here, there's no Aurora. It looks like it's just like Kha'Zix mid-range, which purple and orange both have access to very good cards. Challenge is very good. His signature spells move a friendly unit, then move an enemy unit, charming the enemy unit, and then you're able to move your unit, maybe isolating a fight on another battlefield. That's a pretty powerful card. That can have a lot of impact. Unfortunately, you have to do it on your turn because it's not reaction or anything to that effect. So that's one thing to kind of take into consideration. I'm not completely sold on the XP strategy yet. I'm going to reserve judgment a little bit longer on Kha'Zix because I've been wrong before. I'm going to go ahead and toss him in B, mostly because I see the vision. I'm just not a great deck builder. So I'm curious what route this is truly going to go with Kha'Zix. Is it going to go the aggressive or the mid-range route? Is it going to be like Sivir mid-range was in sets 2, where it just had access to really great spells? Granted, Sivir was mostly playing the Miracle strategy, but I have seen some Sivir mid-range. Rengar straight beat me left and right last night as a Diana player. They're oppressive. They're mean. Every time you play a unit, it gets +1 might for the turn, and what they want to be doing is ambushing and accelerating. So let me pull, I thought I had one up already for Rengar. I guess I don't. A really good list that I wanted to talk about with Rengar. Was it the 5 Nights at Freddy's Simulator? There's a few things I want to point out with Rengar. Trophy Hunter, that card is so good, and I hope people realize how good this card actually is. Being able to ambush to a battlefield where you have no units, and you can do it as a reaction, takes people by surprise, especially if they tap out. If you're able to play Rengar, you're already playing it, so it's going to be a 7 might. While you're in combat, being able to do something like challenge on another battlefield, if you really need to prevent a hold or something like that, is very powerful. Punch first, really good with it. Access to sabotage. Rengar is just going to be oppressive. I really think that Rengar, Lucian, and Rek'Sai are going to be the aggressive decks in set 3. I'm just curious how they will hold up against hold strategies with Vex, right? Because obviously if you play Rengar Trophy Hunter to a battlefield and Vex is there, it gets stunned, you could potentially lose that combat. I personally think that Rengar is sitting somewhere in the B, maybe high B, maybe even low A. To be totally honest with you, I think it's very powerful. The +1 might is very relevant to their strategy. I think that Rengar could be super powerful. Ivern, my man, I want to like you. I really do want to like Ivern. I've just been unimpressed with Ivern so far. They did top 4 in event. So if you look at the actual legend himself, when you conquer a hold, you may exhaust the legend to replace that battlefield with a brushed battlefield. And 99% of the time, what Ivern is trying to do is get an anthem effect for all of his units at a battlefield. Get to a battlefield, play a bunch of units, anthem effect. It's very hard to break through. That's what they did against me on Diana. Except we had this card called Moonfall, which makes me swinging in and then pumping my purple Diana to 13. I was able to punch through very easily, even with Daisy as well. If I'm looking at these colors, if I'm thinking green and yellow, the first thing that comes to mind is not Ivern. I do think the card Friendship, 1 energy, reaction, choose a unit, give it +1 this turn for each of the following tags among your units. You're routinely getting +3. When they played against me, they would get +3, +4. There's not many cards in the format that just have that level and that few power setback that'll disrupt your tempo. That's a really good card. Ivern, I'm sorry, my guy. You're going somewhere down in the low C's. I'm not going to put you at F because you did place pretty well in that tournament, but you're down there. I don't know if you're going to last in the current meta, unfortunately. Master Yi. I didn't think that Master Yi was going to be very good until I watched some XP builds. And then all of a sudden on turn 2/3, you're looking at, you have 6 XP, you have an anthem effect of +1 might to all of your units, and then they're backed by counter spells. It feels like Aurelia. You have Spellsonger, so whenever you're capping with like Moss Stomper, you're getting 4 XP. It's pretty easy for you to go from 0 to 6 XP quickly. That's a pretty large effect. And then going to 11 isn't much more difficult. So not only are you having the +1 might, your units are entering ready, you have Defy, Discipline, Not So Fast, you're able to Alpha Strike. Master Yi is pretty good. But you can also play Master Yi Unstoppable. You can play Elder Dragon, and Anivia. Those are all very good cards. I think Master Yi is going to be way better in the format than a lot of people give credit to. He's going to go somewhere in B. He might even be A. I'll be straight up, because you can do Aurora Yi as well, which I think is an A tier strategy. Now, granted, when we get into gear hate and everything like that, that's something totally separate, but I think Yi is going to be really good. I think Yi is better than Lilia. I think Yi is better than Kha'Zix. And I would argue that Yi and Rengar are both very powerful decks for very different reasons. So these might even truly be low A, high B tier. I'm gonna give that caveat here. And it's, oh, sorry, we actually have a few legends left. I apologize. We have Hwei. I forgot to talk about Hwei. I'm unimpressed with Hwei. I don't think that they're gonna see that much play. If we pull up a Hwei list in Piltover, I've looked at them before because I was trying to figure out what I wanted to play in the set. I think I'd rather play Darius, to be honest. I will say one thing. Brambleback, the red Brambleback, exceptionally powerful card. If you're playing red aggressive strategies, you need red Brambleback. I had it played against me. It's very powerful. I have not played against a Hwei deck that I was truly afraid of yet. Hextech Gauntlets, the signature spell, equip 3 and a power. This ability's energy cost is reduced by the might of the unit you chose. So if you're putting it on Hwei hot-headed, you're paying a power. Then if you look at the other part of the text, when I conquer, if you assign 3 or more excess damage, draw 1. That should be relatively easy for the deck to do. I just think if I want to play an aggressive strategy, I want to play Lucian. I just don't think Hwei is going to have a spot in the meta, somewhere in the C's. I would say Hwei is probably better than Ivern, maybe a different strategy. I'm going to put them just somewhere in C. That's kind of where I'm at. So we've done Jhin, we've done Rengar, we've done Pyke, we've done Hwei, we've done Lilia, we've done Master Yi, Vex, Ivern. We haven't done Diana. I wanted to save Diana last. LeBlanc, Kha'Zix, and Poppy. So now Diana. And this is going to be the shameless plug for me because I've been testing Diana for weeks. And originally, I got to give a shout out to the guys in the Columbus Riftbound Discord for Columbus, Ohio. Mostly Reeves, and then a few other people as well. But Reeves and I and another guy, Nick, have been working on this. And originally, we wanted to build Diana like Aurelia, and we realized that it probably wasn't going to work. But then we started to test another version, the version that I currently have up on the screen, which features your win con's really Hwei and Diana no longer human, backed by really cheap spells. Called Shot being banned does hurt the strategy 150%. However, when you gain control of a battlefield, being able to hold, and I know holding hasn't always been the best strategy, right? But we have ways to get around it. Being able to play cards like Consult the Past, where you can hide it at the battlefield, interact later, and you're just paying 1 power to draw 2 is very powerful when you have Diana out. Her getting the boost to her might is crazy. Routinely, I could just go over the top of people. We do only have 2 counterspells in Abandon and Hard Bargain, but the legend ability of Diana to be able to stack deck in combat for free, or being able to cast 1/2 of Bellows, essentially, if you have like an Ezreal out or anything like that, very powerful. Or helping to cast Downstage Dramatics, very powerful. The whole idea with the deck was to go all in on boosting the might, but even in the end game, when you're drawing, late game, when you're drawing maybe Ravenbloom Student or Plundering Poro and you don't want to play him out, moving Hwei and discarding the unit to make Hwei an 8 might unit is very powerful. The Boots of Swiftness were like a win more. Whenever we have them on a unit, it does helps put additional pressure on it, lets you gank over to a battlefield. So realistically, you only have to hold 1 battlefield. You can then move over after your hold when it's on your turn to try and conquer the second battlefield. This is still a work in progress. Where do I put Diana though? Bloom Purple has been incredibly powerful since we've set out. We saw what Ezreal did in set 2, especially what Alan did with the deck. Moonfall is just a crazy good card. If you've not read it, read it. Played during your action. So on your turn or in showdowns, choose a battlefield where you have units. You can move up to 1 enemy unit there. All enemy units get -2. It works really good with Bellows. Where do I put Diana? Ultimately, I think Diana is in a similar situation to maybe Rengar and Master Yi. Maybe low A, maybe high B. It's going to really depend because when we played against LeBlanc just ran us over. I'll be straight up with you. LeBlanc is not a great matchup in the current iteration of the deck. So I think I put Diana somewhere in here. And honestly, this area, these could very well be up here in low A as well, because they're very, very oppressive strategies. And when they get going, it's very hard to stop. But ultimately, this is where I think it ends up. I think LeBlanc is far and away the best legend in the 3rd set based upon her strategy. You have Pyke, you have Vex, very prominent strategies. Just depends on the route that you want to go. I think a lot of the legends ultimately fall into that low A, high B, mostly high B. And honestly, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying I'm looking at the data that we have from current tournaments and decks that I played against in my own testing. If you like videos like this, I appreciate you watching it all the way to the end. If you have, let me know what you're going to play down in the comments in set 3 and what you've been testing. And if you agree or disagree, this is just a conversation that we're having. If it's your first time here, consider subscribing and liking the video just for any future updates. I've been putting out more shorts than I have long form videos, but we're going to try and get into more long form videos, especially during the testing process. And if you're going to RQ Vancouver, let me know down in the comments. I applied to be a creator up there, so I'll be going up on a creator badge, and I'll be getting up there on Wednesday the 27th and staying until June 2nd. So some of you guys are up there. I'd love to interact with you, meet you, chat about decks, see what you brought up there, and we just go from there. So thanks, guys. Let me know down in the comments, and we'll see you next time.